Confucius once said, "Our greatest glory is not in never falling, but in rising every time we fall." And this is Secret Society of Veterans.
Hello, hello, hello.
Hello, hello, hello. Thank you, listeners, for joining in on another episode of Secret Society of Veterans. Today, we have our co-host, Theresa Alcazar. As you guys know her from the last couple of episodes, I believe episode 3 or episode 4, where we had a conversation. And this is episode 5, guys. How are you doing, T?
I'm doing good, Giz. How are you doing? I'm glad that you're down on episode 5. Wow, can you believe that?
I can't believe it. I'm just learning, and I am enjoying myself doing these podcasts. So what's going on? How's everything with your community advocacy and stuff like that you're doing?
Well, I really haven't been very active this month as I'm delegating my own personal issues, but I am going to be getting peer support VSO certified here in California. As you know, as that's hard to come by. That starts next month. So I'm still in that mindset of advocacy, but again, like I said, advocacy really comes from a place of advocating for yourself,
Correct.
Initially.
Nice.
So
did you so last night there was the NFL Super Bowl. Did you watch it?
Mm-hmm. I kept up with the score. I do know that the Rams lost.
Yeah,
but I did not watch it. I was hoping for the Rams to win only because they did phenomenal. Only because they did phenomenal this year on how they transformed and became a better team. But they were going against the Patriots, who have been, hitting Super Bowl the last 3 years. Yeah. So that was kind of like a hard one to but I'm an LA, California girl, Cali girl, even though I like to say that I spread my love worldwide because I'm a veteran that traveled the world. But,
exactly.
The Rams lost, but, good for me. Hey, they still made the Super Bowl, so I'm proud of them.
Yeah. I like to encourage to call in and ask us questions and interact with the show. So at least we can give them some insights, some guidance, and things like that. So, they if they have some issues or stuff like that they trying to accomplish, they can give us a call, and it can be about anything. They can call and ask you questions about stuff that you're doing, if that's right.
Right, I agree. I think that this is a beautiful asset to the community of the veterans or any other kind of community, or whatever subject will matter. I think that this would be beneficial to us as veterans because it will help hear each other out. We're not alone. We will hear each other as we will say, hey, you know what? I went through that too. And then you get to come on the podcast and allow yourself to process and let some of the other veterans be of service that way. That to me is advocacy work. I think this podcast is advocacy work. The individual calling is advocacy work. As we're becoming more self-aware of how common the issues that we come across are spread out through that veteran community. They're so similar.
Right. We all struggle in life or have accomplishments in life that we want to put out there and let people know and ask for some advice. It's not a weakness if you ask for advice from a fellow colleague, a fellow friend, a family member, and things like that. And we're putting this podcast out there so we can at least help out the community and help out our fellow veterans that might have some questions or have some concerns and things like that, no matter what facet of life it may be. I want to ask a simple question for our listeners or our audience that maybe they might have some insight on. Maybe they can call in and give us some insight. A lot of us come out with disabilities and things like that. How hard has it been for them to get their compensation and pension or get a rating? I would like to hear from the audience or the listeners out there, some things of how hard has it been and what struggles they had to come and accomplish, and if they've gotten ratings and how quickly and how slowly their ratings have come through. So that's a question for maybe our future podcasts and things like that. So, anything new that we want to put out there for our audience? Any questions, anything that we want to talk about? Because this is going to be a podcast of just conversation. We're going to converse about what we
well, let me add.
Go ahead.
Well, let me add to that, Giz. I would definitely like to help you out on that statement. I think that this podcast is a conversation of experiences that will provide you with hope, that will provide you with understanding, that will make you feel like you're not alone, that you will find some kind of self-awareness or some answers to, that will help you delegate through your question, your concerns, or your personal experience that you're struggling with now, as it will do the same for us. Because we're here of service and self-discovery, and we are definitely in the pursuit to happiness, and we're trying to encourage those to do the same.
Right, and I like to encourage any of our fellow vets that have served with us that might be listening. We have a bunch of guys and women out there that have served with us on the USS Carl Vinson. That if they want to be part of this show, they download the app, and we can get calls into them, and we can just have a conversation with them and see how, maybe what they're doing in the community and what they've done after service, or if they're still in service, things like that. I started the show earlier, and it was a quote from Confucius. It said, "Our greatest glory is not in never falling, but in rising every time we do fall." What do you think about that quote, T?
I actually love it. It actually reminds me of another quote that I truly find myself, oh my gosh, almost always re-quoting. I'd rather die fighting than rather on my knees. I'd rather die fighting, or something that has something of that structure. I'd rather die fighting rather than on my knees. I don't know. Do you know what I'm talking about? Do you know what quote I'm talking about?
I believe I've heard it before, yes.
So it almost reminds me of that military sort of concept, because we're fighters, we're gonna gain control. I think that's probably the most common common quote of life, of like where you could describe the main objective in someone's or principles of someone's everyday life as a veteran, or of someone or someone who is of first response, like ER trauma, or a police officer, or the firefighters, whoever has those first respond rescue kind of job performances, those of service. I think that's where for some reason that kind of quote always seems to be circulating always, because we're strong, we're going to defy the odds, we're going to be the rescuer, we're going to come and protect, I'm going to save a life, I'm going to do this, I'm going to be the hero, or I'm going to serve my country, and I'm going to fight other countries, to protect ours, I think it's just something in a subculture of personality and a sub. I don't know how to. If I'm saying it, help me out here.
It's something we do. It's something we do every day, subconsciously, unconsciously, however you want to put it. We fight every day to feed our families, to get up, even to wake up in the morning and things like that. We fight every day. So yeah, that quote, being that it's about fighting and it doesn't mean about physically fighting all the time, because we do physically fight also because of our ailments and things like that. We come out of the service. We don't go in perfect into the service, but we go into the service with, most of us going with all our limbs and things like that, and our mental stability. And then we come out, different than when we went in. And I think we were having a conversation earlier about how much of an impact going to boot camp and things like that has put on our fellow soldiers and sailors and things like that, and Marines and everything, being that we come off of, I don't want to say the streets, but come from a home life, and then all of a sudden we come into a world of being told and being I don't want to say belittled, because they say they break you down to build you back up, but basically being told that you're nothing, and with fighting for our self-dignity while we're in boot camp to be able to accomplish the mission of graduating boot camp to be able to go on to the next mission. So yeah, and we never bow down, I guess you could say. We never get down on our knees and say, okay, we submit to it. We do submit because we know we're fighting for the greater cause. But at the end of the day, we are fighters. We struggle, and we fight for the right of the next man and the next woman.
Right. I kind of want to say something in reference to that as well. I mean, I realize that as we were talking about the superiority complex, you know what I mean? As what we believe that we might, boot camp might have transcended, it's that core, like not the core beliefs, not the honor, courage, commitment, or maybe are those core beliefs, some sort of the honor, the courage, the commitment kind of makes that superiority complex. I mean, they do call us that we have to live a life of, even after boot camp, as role model citizens. So do we start adapting or adopting that superiority complex based on just these words, and yet the breakdown of our own personal belief system? Because in a sense, like as a parent, I have children that have played football. The first thing I recognized was how they condition themselves, how the school conditions them. You know what I mean? It reminded me of boot camp. They will let you believe, as I see my own children, as I get to look outside a box, see how that looked for me in boot camp through the experience of watching my sons do it as I became a teen mom. That they will break the belief system of these young men that believe they couldn't do it. This is not what they could do. This is not what they want anymore, because they feel like they can't, that they are not strong enough or whatever. And then when they make it, when they do it, and even if it's the smallest little thing, it gives them some kind of superhuman ability. I swear it's like that new movie that just came out, Glass. You know what I mean? We're all superheroes, because it will break the mold of one's mindset of what you believe you can be or do. So our rebellious nature, somehow, as we rebel against the injustice that we might even find ourselves facing as active duty members, being heroes, protecting whatever, or maybe even outside of the military, it kind of makes us still the rebel, but yet that I believe I could change anything, because I did it. We touched it. We did it in boot camp. We've touched these acclimates of, not everybody went to war. Not everybody felt the sirens that would go off, or the alarms that would go off and say, hey, now it's code red. We are now off to war. Even that experience alone is almost scary. I mean, you know what I mean?
I mean, I think they broke us out of the mode of fear. I think fear is one of those things, one of those feelings or emotions that you have to be broken out of to become that superhuman. Fear is something that's used against you in every aspect of life, even with these,
But it also controls us. So explain that part, because I feel like fear controls us too. So how does that work?
Fear controls us only if we let it control us. The reason being is because, we are always told, no, don't do that. Don't do this. Don't touch that. That's fire. It'll burn. It hurts. Things like that. So being that we're always told those things, we build up this fear for stuff. Don't steal. You'll go to jail. Don't touch that fire. You'll burn your hand. Oh, don't get with that girl or that guy because of this, because of disease, pregnancy, whatever it may be. So it puts a fear in our heart, and the only way that we could overcome that fear is within ourselves. And I think that being in the service, it broke us out of having that fear, because we're in a group. We are there for each other. We have some superiors above us telling us that we're not worth anything. We're not shit. We're not this. We're not that. Excuse my language. but we're all adults on this podcast. And we fear what's coming next. In the morning, they're throwing bunks around and this and that. We used to call it hurricanes and tornadoes and things like that. And we're fearing that, if we don't do this, we're going to do 2,000 push-ups, 30,000 jumping jacks. But we break out of the mold because we condition ourselves to say, you know what? Whatever comes, I'm going to take it and I'm going to do it to the best of my ability. So that's when we start learning about our abilities. Just like that movie Glass, like you said, it's about, learning your abilities and knowing that you're we're all superheroes in some shape, way, or form.
Right.
So we start putting fear in the back of our heads, in the back of our mind. Don't get me wrong. We still have fear there playing with us and messing with us. But we overlook it because we know what we can do. We have been pushed to the limit, and that limit is what we can accomplish. And we know we can accomplish anything amongst ourselves and with ourselves, and we can beat fear.
You know what I realized and I learned, which recently, as I'm in this process of healing, as I don't know if everybody is aware, but I've been on TV. I advocate for not only the female veterans and the male veteran population and the moms and the children that haven't served but yet married into it. And you know what? As it reached out to other demographics of society, But where I'm trying to get at is that what I realized is that I was held captive by fear, but misrepresented by believing that I was fearless. Because when I was going to therapy, I felt like I had everything under control. For a long time after I got out the military, I remember, if anybody's heard podcast 3, as I was sharing, that I thought I had the 17-year-old superhero syndrome kind of concept. That's what my PTSD looked like. It was anything was possible. I've done more than one job. I was a mom. I did real estate. I did nursing school. I was working at Glendale Memorial as their staffing coordinator, or I was at Pomerado Hospital as their corporate health rep. I had my kid in piano. I just was pregnant. I worked, I was doing a lot, and I wasn't tired. And as a mom and my ex-husband being of active duty, and I was going to school full time. It was crazy how I fit in so much things as I look back, and I wasn't tired or I wasn't exhausted, because let me try to do half of the shit that I did back then. And I'm going to re-quote what Giz says. We are all adults here, and this is military individuals. And I do apologize if you guys don't like, the curse words that we might use, as we will speak spontaneously. But let's face it, we all got sailor mouths.
I have a sailor's mouth.
We all got a sailor mouth.
And with that, we're going to go to a commercial, and we'll be right back.
What's going on?
Welcome back. Now you get it.
What was it? What did you get?
I was trying to figure out a couple of things here and there. So we left off with fear earlier, and right. I think I'm starting to fear how many people are going to be listening to this podcast.
I hope they all download it. I think we need to become like freaking let's take what does that Austin Powers dude say? Let's take over the world, or for $1 million. But
oh yeah, Austin Powers. I remember that.
Well, let's just try to take over the world, try to make everybody download this podcast. So how's your boys? Are you pushing your boys to go to the military, or are you pushing your boys to go to college? And I know you say you have some teenage boys, so yeah, you know what? That's an awesome question that I know a lot of veterans, and I'm pretty sure all veterans, probably have, are dealing with. I have 2 boys, and do I want them to join the military? Yeah, there's a yes and no. As I have had good and bad experiences through the military, because as a woman, that the era that I joined in, we were not. We were still delegating some women's rights issues kind of thing, or maybe we still had to delegate what other role of what a male is and a female is, that we weren't really accepted in a male-dominated that industry, you know. So anyway, I do want them to join, and I don't. That's just such a hard question. I mean, what would you do? I mean, you have kids. I have a yes and a no to it, but ultimately our child decides.
I personally believe that structure is a big yes for our children to join. Right. I believe everybody in this country, in the United States of America, should do 2 years of military time if they're going to live on this soil.
Interesting. So you believe that the children should be drafted? Almost.
I don't believe that they should be drafted. I believe that if they're not in college or at a job where they are becoming breadwinners for the household, I believe they should do 2 years of military time. I believe that having kids that are 14, 15 years old, as we saw in the news, probably, I don't know how long ago, where the kid got stabbed and macheted up and died. Being out on the streets isn't a good look for these kids. So, being that if they're not in school, working to bring home some money for the household, I believe they should be sent to some sort of military aspect and do 2 years of that. And if they like it, they can stay for as they can deal with it. But leaving kids out in the street and to hang out and play dominoes or play cards or just be out in the street alone without having a job, without having any kind of structure, because mom and dad work 2 jobs to put bread on the table, these kids should be in military for 2 years if they're going to live on our streets. It's just my opinion. I mean,
I'm sorry to interrupt, but I agree with it. And you don't even know my background. I mean, you know my background, but not the rest of the public audience yet. But I agree with you. Coming even from having a negative experience, such as, MST. You know what I mean? Right. I agree. I agree with you 100%. I feel like, if you wanted to call it drafted, I'm glad you answered it that way and explained it. But hey, at the end of the day, if you want to call it drafted, because I will call it drafted, and I'm okay with it. I think it's mandated. I shouldn't think it should be mandated.
I think it should be mandated too. If we're mandated to go to school and our parents get in trouble for our kids missing so much school, I think that should be another aspect of our society that should be something like school mandatory. If you got to go to school for the from when you're in kindergarten or preschool till you
die
12th grade, I think somewhere in those lines 2 years of it should be military time, or right after the high school, do 2 years of military time and then go into college.
Or like maybe do 2 years between. You have the option of doing 2 years between this time frame in your 20s, 18 to 25 perhaps, or 18.
Somewhere in your lifetime before the cutoff age, we should have 2 years of military.
And I don't care whether or not, and honestly, I even think doctors and lawyers and every profession, I think every human being should join the military. Because don't you? I don't even care if they go to college. You should join the military, because I've seen, how do you call it? Maybe grouping. I hate to stereotype, but there's still a little bit of truth to every lie, every stereotype, there's truth to something. Is that too ignorant to say?
I want to say like this: if if you're not in a religion, if you're not in a religion that doesn't allow you to go to the military, I believe you should go to the military for 2 years. If you're in college to become a doctor, I think you should be embedded somewhere in some sort of military so you can learn that aspect of doctoring for our veterans that are coming home and things to that effect. Because you got to think about it, civilian doctors and military doctors have two different ideas of our of our sick military. You think about it. I was reading something on Facebook. It was a funny comic kind of thing, and there's one doctor, civilian doctor, that says, "Yeah, you're sick. Okay, we're gonna give you all these pills and all this stuff, and we're gonna work on you as much as possible and make you waste your money to find out what you're sick from and what's wrong with you." As towards a military doctor is like, "Oh, you're sick? Okay, here's some Motrin, and we know you're gonna deal with it."
I think that's a little too extreme, kids. But yet, talking from the person that wants everybody to join, and I don't care,
Right. So I think everybody should. I think everybody that is like kids, not kids, of age, that are out there and have no kind of guidance in life, and they want to be out in the streets selling drugs, selling guns, impregnating girls or girls going out there and twerking and this and that. I think they should do 2 years of military time, come out with some sort of structure, and they have the option of going to college, because we're able to go to college after military. I think it's 2 years that it pays for. You get a lot of benefits coming out of the military. So being that, I think that they should be able to do the 2 years, come out, and if they want to go to college, they can. They come out with an honorable discharge. They can get a decent job, and they're still at a young age.
I'm gonna seriously state this part. Why? I mean, because again, I'm an MST survivor. That was a 9/11. We worked together alongside together on 9/11. Me and Giz are 9/11 combat veterans as the first responders, and I suffer MST. Now,
sorry for cutting you off, but for a lot of the listeners out there that don't know what MST is, can you explain to them what MST stands for and what it is?
Well, military sexual trauma, as that descriptive, is now a disability that is PTSD related as well. I mean, not combat, but it would be PTSD related in your service. But since I have both, and it touched a historical marker, I advocate for that. But mind you, Giz could have it too, and he didn't have to be raped. Anybody, mind you, I hope everybody knows that part. MST is not just rape. MST is also sexual harassment, or them using you, or using their power to maybe sexually touch you, force you to go on dates with them, to remove power, and them utilizing their status, or to putting something over your head. Because I've met male MST survivors that will tell me their story, and mind you, I felt their same pain. When they and the crazy part is, they could have been coerced,
right,
or them being threatened. Because as I now hear that the military is making a lot of changes, as they're even recognizing the past, and which we've seen even in TV, which is insane. Like, this is how much that's how much we've been fighting still. You know what I mean? Even equality. You know what I mean? It's just insane. We see it on TV. We know it. They make movies about the bad boy. And then in our era, when we joined first co-ed boot camp, that I was a part of, first group of women, like, in a sense, we were not the first women on nuclear warships. We're the first group of women that were actually stationed on and lived, not just on packs or not, on squadrons. We were living as alongside you. We had one birthing. That fit how many women? One birthing out of how many male counterparts that never went out to sea with women? That was intense. So no matter what I think or better, I believe I don't know if it's right or if this is what every veteran is experiencing, but I do know, as I'm experiencing it now, is that we're in a different era. We touched history, kids. We in our era, that 1 year, that one, even whether, I don't care any which way you got, we touched a historical monument, and we might have experienced something even more harder than most because we were that transition.
Right.
And that transition means change, and change is a effort. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So I mean, but now that I just totally flew, because you want to call that a flashback, because that totally brought me through a little flashback. I ain't gonna play. Like it totally made me lose sight on what I was trying to finish off and discuss, or what I was what my message was about to display. Did you just experience that with me?
I just experienced, and I think everybody else
that weird?
That with you.
Oh my gosh, I just had a flashback. That's some weird shit.
That's
wow.
Okay.
No, it's weird. No, that we get to share that even on a podcast.
And
because that's insane.
And we're here to listen to each other and be able to give guidance, because listen, a lot of people out there that are listening aren't just military or veterans. They're also civilians out there, and they don't know what MST is. They think it's Mountain Standard Time. But MST is a real big issue in our service, in our services, and a lot of it is hidden under the carpet, for nobody wants to, have repercussions, and nobody wants to speak about it. But being able to speak about it, it's a trauma, and it needs to be spoken about, and it needs to be brought to the forefront. So maybe we can make a difference. Maybe we can change somebody's mind. Like, there are women out there listening to this, or ex-military that are listening to this, and they're probably feeling like you are, and they're probably sitting there saying, you know what, I went through that. Let me call her and find out what she needed to do to be able to get through it. What does she do every day? What does she do every day to get through it? How does she cope with
I just got the chill.
Her days, with her days, how does she cope with her children? How does she cope with an everyday life? How does she cope with even getting into a relationship with somebody now after a trauma like that? What does she do? So being that, and this is not just women, it's also male.
Also men.
Men too can go through that trauma.
Right.
And it can affect their lives forever.
Right. And and it's okay if you're shaking your head no, and you don't want to believe it, and you have your own, because at one point, and as I'm a survivor, and I am now discussing it, and I can't talk about it without breaking down all the time, or hyperventilating, I said the same thing. You know what I mean? Like, I was never the one that I didn't even have PTSD. I sure as hell didn't have no depression. I thought my active form of PTSD was that I was invincible, because no one was going to take anything from me. Right? So that's that feeling, regardless, is that feeling that everyone will feel that has suffered from PTSD, because something was taken from you, right? I mean, it's crazy stuff. I just can't believe I just shared that experience with you, Giz, and it was recorded. And that's amazing. And that is going to relate to some other public audience. I'm sorry that if I triggered you, because it can happen. But know that you're not alone. Somebody's there. Call that 1-800 number. Go to your local VA. Call a veteran. Call your fellow veteran. And if you haven't said anything and I triggered you, you talk about it. You talk about what made you feel that way to somebody who might understand. And that it will be, and as it always has been since my healing so far, has been my fellow veteran. Because they get it.
Right.
And I hate to say it, because I don't want to be so biased about it. Because I experienced it. So I'm going to be biased to my own experience. Because that's what I do know. It was my fellow veterans that understand me. Civilians seem to not understand it. And I hate to feel unequal, inequality to us.
that's for, you got to understand, we have hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and thousands of veterans that are out there. And that goes for the PTSD, that goes for our depressions and our anxieties. We are there for each other, and talking about these things and getting it off your chest, getting it out of your mind. And I know we spoke about monkeys in the brain a couple of podcasts ago. Being able to just get that monkey off your shoulders and out of your brain, it helps. It might not help and solve the problem or solve the issue, but every little bit counts. Every little bit,
it's so true. It's so true, and I'm so glad that you said that right now, because that reminds me of one of my first groups. Whether or not it was combat PTSD or one of my MST groups, they said there is no quick fix-it pill. There is no miracle cure. You know what I mean? It's just something we have to learn to cope with. It just gets easier day by day. You know, and it's always going to be that roller coaster ride. You're going to have moments of uncomfortability, and you just don't understand why your body's maybe even reacting the way it's doing. Are you quivering? Are you hyperventilating? Or you feel like your heart is like racing out of your chest and you can't breathe, or as if you're having a heart attack and you're scared. And it's okay to be scared, my fellow veterans, because not every day do you have to be a soldier. Sometimes we are victims, because there are unfair things that are out there. There's not cool. There's not always. You can't isolate yourself in this box and believe that the whole world is going to be great and no one's ever going to cause any harm. And we're all going to be like sort of robotic. We're not. There's going to be good and bad. That's why we have yin and yang. And to understand that we cannot or have any control over the world around us, that we will experience fucked up shit.
Yes, and we will. In every aspect. And
every aspect.
What we need to do is be able to educate ourselves to be able to get through and cope, because we are having children. We are here for the next generation, and we're still here for the next generation. And we're have to come up with some sort of small solutions that will, if our child goes through something, we're able to say, here's what I did. Here's how I coped. Here's how I handled that. And maybe you can use these tools and be able to handle it maybe better than me. But I don't want you to go through what I went through. So here's what I did. And these are the things that, this is the reason why, the Secret Society of Veterans podcast is here, is to be able to give guidance, advice, some sort, and just to be here for you guys to listen to us and hear our stories, hear the next man and woman's story. And we don't want the sympathy. We would like the empathy and the understanding of, wow, they've been through something that I've been through, or they're human just like us. We're not just voices over the air or the internet. We are human beings just like you. I suffer from depression and anxiety, and there's many veterans out there that suffer from depression and anxiety. But how I cope and you cope, if we put them together, we will have a great coping mechanism. And this is what this is, a coping mechanism that is able to help and guide.
And bring awareness.
Mm-hmm.
And advocacy. And hey, you know what? I'm going to tell you one thing. And as again, it's only my experience, and I'm pretty sure others as well, because I know that not everyone's experience is the same, but for some reason, again, the veteran population seems to be the only thing that helps heal even the veteran population. You know what I mean? As even in current VA or, our political government, veteran affairs aspect of baloney of what we're getting subjected to. I feel like it's the veterans that seem to only be helping the veterans. And it's weird that as an MST survivor, it was a doctor, and he was an Army veteran who was my psychologist, my psychologist at the New Directions here. And mind you, it wasn't easy, but they taught me, New Directions, who is a program, by the way, a wonderful program. I think as all the programs that are out there, as we have them, regardless of the negative stuff that can come from it, because there's always good and bad, remember, folks, is the fact that it's there to be of service. And it's we who do the work anyway. As we will be challenged. Well, a male doctor helped me. And he was a man. And he was my first one who I shared vulnerability with. I mean, crazy stuff is that he was my safe place. As I would cry, telling him, I felt like a child that said, hey, I didn't know what I was doing. And a man. And I'm an MST survivor.
Right.
You get what I'm saying? Like, it gets better, folks. It does get better. It does get better if you just talk about it. And it doesn't matter. Learn and to know you're not alone. That's why the podcast is there. I think that's what the Secret Society is trying to do is, hey, you know what? Let's talk about it. Let's talk about the raw stuff that we experience. And let's just be honest. Don't worry about what the public eye is saying, because there's no agenda here.
Right.
There's no agenda to step on anybody, to get on top of anybody. What we want to do is share the truth, our truths, and know that you guys aren't alone. And these are the things that we experience, because as we speak to as now, the internet has done amazing things for us current veterans and those of past eras now that are still alive, is that they give us a chance to communicate. As they couldn't back then. They couldn't even find each other probably back then. You know what I mean? Now we can heal our military veterans or be more supportive of our veteran groups, as we need to really understand what this internet has of service to all of us.
Talking about support, I don't. This is something that I believe that everybody should write down, put down on paper, and keep with them. We do have a Veterans Crisis Line, and the number to that is 1-800-273-8255. And if you're a veteran and you're calling that line, press 1. There should be somebody on that line to talk you through things, to give you some sort of guidance and help. Also, you can do a confidential chat at veteranscrisisline.net, or you can text to 838-255. So if you're feeling any which way about anything, call these guys, and there should be somebody there on that line to be able to help you out.
And not just that, I'm going to tell you what California has been implicating in all these veteran organizations that I actually really think should be implicated worldwide, no matter what. Even with, if we could bring it into the school system, let's do it. But anyhow, it's your battle buddy. And if you still have a phone number, as we now have Facebook and Messenger and all that you could even give them a call. Why don't you go ahead and call your battle buddy? Just check on them. Just text them, see how they're doing. Because, again, as we know what we should be doing, even though I am in my journey of discovery and for the pursuit to happiness, as I'm present, I suffer PTSD, and
we all do, being that we're veterans. We're gonna have to close this out.
Yeah,
because we're at.
It was great talking to you kids.
So for the next podcast, I would like you guys to call in. Download the app. It's the Anchor app. Download it. Give us a call. You have Theresa on there, and you have Secret Society of Veterans. My name's Anthony, and you can give us a call. Ask any questions you want to talk. We can talk. We can get online. We can get on here and have a conversation, and basically be help for the next battle buddy. Be help for the next person, and treat each other like human beings. I thank the audience for joining us. I appreciate every listener, old, new, and future. You can find us on Facebook at Secret Society of Veterans. And we're here for you. This is for the veterans and for us to be able to love each other, care about each other, hug each other, and cry with each other. We thank you 100%. And all you hard chargers, like Captain Crocker said on our ship, USS Carl Vinson, keep on pushing. Thank you, T.
You're welcome. Goodbye. I love y'all. You guys are all beautiful. Bye.
Thank you for joining us on today's episode of Secret Society of Veterans. I thank all the listeners. I thank all the help that I get from the callers and the ones that I interview. I thank you all. Please keep your life safe. Keep the next man and woman's life safe. Let's make this world peaceful. And let's, like Ellen DeGeneres says, let's love one another. Let's give each other hugs. Thank you again for joining us at Secret Society of Veterans. Till the next one.